Welcome to Mysterious Universe, Season 34, Episode 20. Coming up on the show, we've got encounters with the cosmic drone, transhumanism versus the goddess, and the doctors of deception. I'm your host, Benjamin Grundy. Joining me is Aaron Wright.
Are you entirely sure it's wise to be talking about the goddess again? I thought we were steering clear of her.
Don't really have much of a choice. Slim pickings these days.
And then you just happen to be like, well, I'll talk about the goddess.
You know, when you've been doing a show for nearly 20 years,
Yeah,
slim
okay.
pickings at the end of the bull's horn. This new book came out, Alien Goddess, UFOs, AI, and the Goddesses of Ascension by Dr. Joanna Kujawa. She's Polish.
Kujawa?
Yeah, Kujawa. She's Polish. I thought it would be AI Slop as soon as I saw it.
Well, when you see the cover, but that's like, we use AI slop images for our website, so you can't.
Yeah, but there's a lot of these books where it's just, no one's written it. It's just nonsense. But
Yeah.
she's actually a very good researcher.
Right.
She's got a PhD. She's moved to Australia. She's living in Queensland, as far as I can tell. And she's written about, I think she's got a PhD in medieval studies or something. So very educated in terms of ancient religions. And especially she's looked at the worship of the feminine
Okay.
in the past.
Which is
And-
something that's come up a lot recently, just coincidentally.
Yeah, so I was intrigued to go into this because she ties in UFOs. She ties in strange encounters, and she ties in the rise of artificial intelligence and this push for transhumanism. Now, she seems to have come to the conclusion, without giving too much away, and it's quite a large book, but she seems to think that the goddess is the antidote to the push for transhumanism, to the idea of AI transforming human beings, taking over human beings. She claims that the descension and ascension of the goddess is an answer to that.
Intriguing. I mean, I'm concerned, but it's intriguing because there is, although in saying that there has been this threat, it's almost like this Ray Kurzweil kind of perception that AI and transhumanism is like right on our doorstep and it's about to take over. I mean, the AI bubble is about to burst. Like, people don't see it coming already. Like SoftBank, I'm not going to go into like finance and stuff, but SoftBank just sold off all their Nvidia stock. The markets are people are starting to go, like venture capitalists are starting to go, where's the return on our money? Because right now, AI is not living up to its promise.
Yeah.
It's just producing slop.
I've been reading Ed Zitron's Substack.
Yes. Yeah, I
and
read it after you said it to me.
Yeah, he's been a massive critic of the whole AI industry for a long time now, and he's
Well,
very
thermodynamically, it doesn't even make sense.
he's very extreme with what he talks about in terms of the whole thing being a massive bubble. But it's hard to argue with some of his figures because when he talks about the numbers involved and these circular deals that. And he talks about how AI, the head of AI's productivity and their money-making future is the same woman that run Farmville at Facebook. And he's kind of talking about how she's set up almost as
She's the patsy.
She's the scapegoat. She's going to be the scapegoat when everything collapses and they don't make the revenue that they need.
Well, you were telling me as well that it's like these big AI companies are investing into the chip companies so that the chip companies invest back into the AI companies to keep everything going. And
It's all circular investment.
It's this Ponzi scheme, really.
NVIDIA investing in OpenAI so that OpenAI buys the chips from NVIDIA. And then Zitron goes into the length of time that these cards from NVIDIA last. Like, they need to be written off after 5 years.
Is that too hot?
Most of them break down. And by the time the big data centers are built and all these cards and chips are installed, all the compute is actually running, it's obsolete anyway because there's new cards coming online.
And the power required to actually power these facilities is just monumental.
It's interesting because the argument against AI isn't necessarily that it's not as good as it's hyped up to be, although I believe that to be true in some sense as well, but that the finance side of it is just smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
The funding doesn't make sense. The revenue targets don't make sense. And in essence, the demand just isn't there for all this compute being built, these gigawatt data centers that are supposed to come online in 12 months and will probably take 5 to 10 years for one or two of them to be built. It doesn't make sense. It's like the whole thing is a house of cards that's ready to collapse.
And it will.
So when she talks about this kind of impending AI takeover, I think when that bubble does collapse, it's going to look a little bit silly. Like, all of this hype of AI is going to take over everyone's jobs and all these industries won't exist. I just don't think it's true.
No, I don't think
it's
so either.
It's an incredibly useful tool. And I know
For creating images, though.
Yeah, there's some great applications for it, but I just think a lot of it just sucks.
It sucks so much. And especially because you and I, from, the literary, kind of perspective, like we're at the coalface, because part of what we do in producing this show over the years is that, we went from, buying paperback books and having them shipped here and going through old libraries. And like, that's been our process for so long. But then we moved to Kindle, and that was fine because it was a digitization of those paperback books. And it was great. But now, since AI has taken over, even in the last 12 months, everything, I kid you not, is just flooding through the Kindle store. Like Amazon's doing nothing to stop it, of AI slop. And it's AI slop because it's just so verbose and over the top. And
it all looks the same. It all sounds the same.
And you read it and you get nothing out of it.
Yeah, there's no
story in it.
There's nothing to it. There's nothing in it at all. It's just this AI garbage recycled over and over.
So when you extrapolate
it's like a slop tsunami we're in the middle of right now.
And then the biggest other factor is that AI can't produce content from AI-produced content. So it's like once it's sucked up all the data that it's like being generated by human beings, then it kind of hits a wall. So and have you tried like GPT 5.1? It's like, it's backwards.
Well, part of the problem is that you rarely see the same output twice. It's
never.
Like the output's never reliable. So one thing Zitron argues for Google, for example, like their whole business model is based around ads. And something like search, you can always rely on it. Like the algorithms are always going to deliver, depending on how you design it, the search results are always going to be what you want, right? But you compare that with something like AI, use that metaphor of search results, the search results are
never replicates.
Always going to be different. They're always going to be all over the place. Some of the results you get aren't even going to be real things.
Yep.
So how can you build a revenue model off something that's so unreliable you don't get the same output, 2 times in a row?
Well, I really did think it would be quite effective for research, because I thought, well, what it can do is, like, once I come up with the story, like normally I'll find a story, and part of how, again, we put the show together is I look for other stories that are similar so I can kind of build a narrative around it. So this is great because I can put in a story that I really like and say, find me things that have these parallels. Like, find me stories that are similar to this. And it would throw up poorly written, but these stories, right? And I know basically almost every story that's in the paranormal. I'm sorry now, but after, like, I'm not even being like over the top. After 20 years, you know all the mainstream stories. It's pretty hard to find something you don't know. But I thought the AI would help. It's throwing up all these new, incredible, truly incredible stories. I'm like, oh my God, like this is amazing. I can't believe that happened. Like there was one describing how radio operators in New York picked up this strange radio signal one evening, which was compromising their encryption. And so because that happened, the military went rushing in, and like it was because it was a probe that had come in from some craft. I'm like, this is an amazing story. How come I've never heard this? Oh, it's not real. And I even said to the AI, I'm like, it's not real. I asked you to give me real or allegedly true reports. And it's like, oh, sorry about that. Here's a new one. So it gives me another fake one. I'm like, that's fake. It's like, oh, you're right. That is fake.
Yeah. I love
totally
that meme.
unreliable.
I love the meme where the guy's just had some kind of medical operation and he's got a scar on his left side, and he says to the GPT doctor, he's like, isn't my kidney on the other side, or isn't my liver on the other side? And it gives the standard GPT response of, oh, yes, you're totally right. Sorry about that. We'll have to do the operation again.
I actually think there's something very terrifying coming, because look, when the dot-com bubble burst, like that was bad enough, right? But right now, it's not just AI. It's like the entire market has been, like, who would have thought NVIDIA would become like this absolute behemoth of a company? Everything, if that goes crashing down, everything's going to go crashing down.
I don't know the exact figures, but someone said the other day that the entire gains of the market in the US over the last year of the last financial year in the US have been from AI.
Yeah.
And so, when that house of cards goes, some people are saying the whole market's going to go with it. It's going to be like a 2008 crash again. But then you got to question, is the government going to bail it out? That's on the cards now as well. So, I mean, it's still very useful technology, but I think the hype is just so overblown. And so, again, you put that into the context of someone talking about this total takeover of human beings from artificial intelligence.
You don't have to fear it, because it's not going to happen. It's not. I'm telling you right now, it's not going to happen.
I think you might be right. But anyway, we won't really be talking about the AI side of things, because like a lot of these books where you have a great researcher that starts very passionately looking at these topics of, UFOs, and she talks about multidimensional contacts. They often have their own personal encounters.
Oh,
and
great.
indeed, Joanna has had her own numerous personal encounters. So I'll be talking about those as well.
So you said multidimensional. Are you saying that she's had experiences with what could be described as interdimensional beings?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, that's coming up in the Plus extension. Similar sorts of stories, because I do talk about, finding stories that I haven't covered, and I found a couple of real bangers that stand out. That at first, when I started looking into these stories, I thought, oh, it sounds a little bit like it's a UFO experience, but it doesn't seem to be that at all. It seems to be something a little bit different. And maybe the only way you could probably classify it is that they're interdimensional encounters. Some of them do have a ufological kind of theme to it, like the cosmic drone, which I'll get into, but I'm going to go into some very unusual cases I'll leave it up to you to decide. Is it interdimensional or is it ufological?
Okay.
Let's work it out.
Yeah, looking forward to that. You'll have to forgive me. I'm a little bit under the weather today.
We've both got blocked noses again.
Yeah, I'm struggling, man.
Only a few weeks to go till we burn this office down, Ben. Don't worry about it.
Struggling a little bit. I had a massage yesterday down at this swanky place in Noosa. But when you check in, you choose whether you want a massage from a man or a woman. And I always pick woman. I always just I want a massage from a woman. But I forgot to pick it when I booked yesterday. And I got the only dude that works there. And he's a concreter. He's like a full-time concreter.
Don't worry, mate. I'll fix you up.
And he's a part-time masseuse. He's like, no worries, mate. I'll fix your fucking shoulders
concrete
up.
is a
You got a
freaking
sore
huge.
neck, do you, prick? Get into that, yeah, fucking yeah. I walked out of there like I was a cripple.
Best massage you've ever had, though, I'm
But
sure.
it was the best massage I've ever had from this this hardcore concreter. Just smashed my neck.
Did you throw like bags of concrete on your back?
He
You're
was
like, here you
just
go, mate.
pummeling me. But it was good. Like I felt good, but I've just had this head cold that I'm trying to get over. But we'll see how we go.
You'll be fine.
We'll see how we go. So yeah, Joanna Kujawa. It looks like Kujawa, but it's
Kujawa.
It's Kujawa. Yeah, so she shows this concern over the rapid development of AI, the push for transhumanism. She suggests the antidote is in the abandoned wisdom tradition of the divine feminine, of the goddess. We'll get into that a little bit later. But I wanted to talk about some of these experiences she's had. And she goes back to her childhood in Poland, in eastern Poland. She was from a little town called Lublin. And in 1978, her school friend Ivanka came running up the stairs to their apartment, exasperated and screaming like crazy. And she was out of breath and exhausted because she had just seen a flying saucer with her younger sister and with both her parents. Like just, 20 miles down the road, they were driving and saw this flying saucer. She said they had spotted it above the fields of the rural area around our hometown of Lublin in eastern Poland. I believed her, even if nobody else did. She said since Ivanka and her family visited their relatives in the countryside quite often, they experienced more sightings. Each time, she swore that the spaceship surrounded by orbs of light was absolutely real. They all saw it. Each time, she told us the same story. She was in the car with her parents and sister driving back towards the city when they saw this object zigzagging across the sky with incredible speed. And of course, she would race to her house, to Joanna's house, to tell her what she saw. And they would stand on her balcony of this apartment building in Poland trying to summon it in, so that she would see it as well. She really wanted to share it with a friend. Now, Joanna never saw that ship. She never saw the orbs. But years later, she said, I left Poland for good. I've lived in other countries around the world. But in 2024, she's in Australia. So she must have moved to Australia at one point. She decided to use that memory from her childhood as the opening of this book to kind of get things started. And it's a funny thing she said when she was prepping for the book and doing the research of the UFO side of things, she claims she heard like a little voice in her head. I don't know whether she's saying metaphorically or she actually heard something, but this little voice tells her to look up UFO sightings in Poland. So she does this, and the first result is the Emelson sighting.
Remind me of that case.
It's quite a famous one. We definitely would have covered it before, but this occurred in May the 10th, 1978, in a rural area 30 miles from where she lived, 30 miles from where her friend and her family were seeing this UFO.
Was this the diamond-shaped craft out in the snow?
No. So this guy was a peasant farmer from the small village of Emelson. He claimed he met aliens and was taken aboard their craft. His name was Volsky, 71 years old at the time. And he had left his fields on a horse-drawn cart, just starting the day on the farm. It was probably like 4 o'clock in the morning or something. He's halfway to his fields and his cart was stopped by 2 humanoids. They spoke in a strange non-human language. And it's funny because at first he thought they were tourists. Now this is communist Poland. So
they don't get many visitors.
There's not really tourists. Like tourists aren't a thing. The other thing which should have been a giveaway is that they looked like this.
Oh, yes, of course. Yep.
They looked like weird freaks with green skin.
Classic image.
And
the tanks on their back.
Black balaclavas. Yeah, these weird tanks. He claimed they were 4.9 feet tall with slanted eyes, greenish grey skin. And they took him up into this flying vessel. It was hovering about 16 feet above the field. He noticed that both the ship and the uniforms of the beings were the same dark color. He was also struck by the fact that there were no visible joints, perfectly seamless construction of the craft. And when he was taken inside the ship, he said there were these strange 4 objects attached to the walls inside, and they were humming, constantly humming these things. But the walls were also able to go transparent. So while he was there and while they were traversing, he could see everything that was going on. The humanoid beings gestured for him to undress. They examined him with 2 round objects, then gestured again he could put his clothes back on. They even offered him some nourishment that looked like metallic icicles, but Volsky refused. Would you eat the metallic icicles?
No.
No?
No.
I would eat them. You got to try them. That's what they say. Always eat the food, always drink the drink when you're in the fairy realm.
And you never come back. You end up missing 411.
The beings then lowered him to the ground on an open lift and set him free. Volsky rode back to his cart, to his house, told his sons and neighbors. Now, obviously, they go out there. The object has disappeared.
Were there any indents in the ground?
Yeah, they saw plenty of footprints. There were indentations, marks in the grass. And apparently a 6-year-old boy from the same area said he had seen a strange object hovering above the family's barn around the same time of that day. He said it looked like it had been about to land, but then it moved away at great speed, which is pretty interesting. So there were numerous sightings in the area. So I actually looked up today a Polish report from this on the anniversary, which was 5 years ago. And there was a detailed book that was written in 2013 by a Polish researcher. His name was Bartosz Rudolski. I can't pronounce the name of it. It's just like, I can't pronounce these Polish names, dude. It's something UFO.
There's a lot of Z's in there.
It's like Brzezinski.
It's fine.
UFO.
It's all good. Look, we'll just link to it. People can read it themselves.
In a nutshell, he claims the whole thing was a hoax, but not in the way that you think. So when the whole incident was first reported, a ufologist from the big city, his name was Blania, he came and investigated the case. But this researcher who wrote this book in 2013, he ended up purchasing all the old records, all the old archives of this reporting. He discovered that this ufologist had a rival, and that rival lived in this town of Lublin. And months before, they had had a dispute. The ufologist from the city maintained that you could put someone under hypnosis and you could essentially seed ideas into their mind and they would believe it was a true encounter. Now, the ufologist from the country, he didn't believe this and they had this feud. And so to settle the feud, they agreed to put the disbelieving ufologist under hypnosis. And they ended up putting him under, he agreed to this, and then they basically gave him an abduction scenario. Like they told him that he had been taken by aliens and he ended up freaking out. And when he came out of the hypnosis, he had to admit that he was wrong because he fully thought it was a real encounter.
Yeah, that's what Greg Newkirk described after they did, I can't remember the name of what their documentary was, but remember they had their friend Gal hanging around with them?
Yeah, Jason.
Yeah, and one of the things that they were going to do was that they were going to use a hypnotist to put a false memory of an alien abduction in his mind. And apparently it caused considerable distress, like a lot, like messed him up.
Yeah, he cracked.
Yep.
He didn't work. I don't think he worked with them again after that.
I don't believe so. I don't know, but yeah, I don't think so.
So the conspiracy of these two ufologists is that the guy that got hypnotized, he was pissed off that he got hypnotized and believed this nonsense. So to get back at the other ufologists from the city, he hypnotized a local, and it was Volsky. And so he hypnotized this guy Volsky, and
But you can't like just jump on someone and like gang hypnotize them. It's not how it works.
That's apparently what this guy claims happened. He hypnotized him, told him he was abducted by this green alien, and then sent him on his way.
Just jumps out like in a cloak with like what, a spinning pinwheel or something. Like, oh, you're getting tired.
Then he waited for the for this ufologist from the city to come and investigate it and say it was a real account, and then expose him as a fraud, expose him that he was wrong. Like, I actually hypnotized the guy. Apparently,
who has the energy to do
I know,
that?
it's such a convoluted story, right? Apparently, the case became so convincing and the evidence around it so irrefutable, like the footprints in the ground and the other sighting from the child, that when he announced, oh, I actually hypnotized this guy, it's all a ruse, no one cared.
Because it was already out there.
Everyone was already convinced that this sighting had happened.
There was a MacGyver episode where that happened. It was like
Really?
some weird UFO shows up in a field and MacGyver wanders out. I can't believe I remember this. And there's some alien like putting like, he's got like a stick and he's putting like dents into the ground.
Yeah.
Whacks MacGyver with it. And it turns out, yeah, it's just some guy who was faking a UFO sighting. I'm like, that's the way to do things.
But I mean, this is just one researcher's opinion. It's his idea of what happened. I don't know if there's hard, absolutely conclusive proof that this is actually what took place, but it is intriguing that Joanna's friend, in the exact same year, in the exact same location in Poland, her and her family were seeing this flying saucer getting around.
Yeah, it's more than a coincidence.
So it's hard to look at it and go, oh yeah, the guy was just hypnotized and he came up with this crazy story. It doesn't account for all these other sightings.
No, but this is the thing, right? Like, let's just try to make it really simple. Like I said before, it's a convoluted and like a huge amount of effort to do something like that, as opposed to literally just having aliens land in someone's backyard.
Well, they also maintain that this guy was in on it and he loved being a storyteller. But I mean, once he was hypnotized, he was convinced it was true anyway. That's their version of the story. I don't know. But isn't it interesting with the UFO thing, how you always have this aspect of trickery?
Always.
There's always
forgery.
It's always questionable about whether it's possible, you know, what the real story is. There's always this gray area, and that's when all the other weird stuff seems to happen around it.
You're totally right. That's how it thrives. That's how it needs to be that it's unbelievable for it to be able to function.
Yeah.
It's really quite surreal.
And Joanna's quite astute in her research with this, because she immediately points out that these experiences occur in the liminal sphere.
Yep.
The threshold between worlds. So liminal.
Railroad tracks, roads, bridges.
Yeah, liminal in a physical sense, like a multidimensional sense as well, like a world between worlds where these things happen. But also like the threshold between worlds, dream states, altered states of consciousness. So she says the next matter to investigate is the connection between the experience of UFO phenomena and our personal beliefs. And she uses two examples. So she compares Chris Bledsoe's White Lady with the Fatima sightings in Portugal.
I expected she might.
Now, I'm not going to go into Bledsoe's case again.
We know it.
Because we know it back to front. But I do want to give the description again of the White Lady that he gave from his first encounter with her in 2012, because it's going to come up later. So when he encountered her, remember, he's dragged out of bed by these hooded beings. He sees this crazy spectral bull. He's handed like a little fluffy animal with no face. And then he sees this white lady. Now he describes her as a beautiful white lady hovering 6 feet off the ground. But remember, she is 4 to 4.5 feet tall, wearing a white dress with saggy sleeves and has translucent hair. She says to him, "You know why I'm here. You must tell what you've experienced." She tells him there's been a power shift in heaven that had something to do with the return of the divine feminine. Following morning, he's found lying unconscious by the back door of his house. And the next sighting he had was in 2013, where he was placed in a pod. Remember, he found himself in a clear ball, and he was transported to some desert landscape. He meets the lady for the second time. Can't remember everything she tells him, but he does know that when the alignment of the star Regulus would appear in the gaze of the Sphinx, a new knowledge would be born onto humanity. Now, Bledsoe's publishers checked all the details of this. It's happening in 2026. That alignment is happening next year. So good luck to the new MU hosts. I'm sure you'll have plenty to report in 2026. If something like that happens, would we talk about it on our new show?
No.
Just ignore it. Like
it.
Straight face
like,
ignore it.
Honestly, the entire world could be burning from some divine feminine like energy, which is like eradicating people from the planet. And I'll just be like, no, not talking about it.
We'll just be talking about a video game or something.
Yep.
So Joanna then compares this to the Lady of Fatima. There she is. I'll put her on the screen there. So the Virgin Mary is the Catholic interpretation, but she does say if you remove the Catholic connotation, she's said to have appeared 6 times to the 3 children between 1916 and 1917. And these sightings were so huge, at one point there was 70,000 people.
Yeah, to bring in spectators
there to see this phenomenon. People were saying the sun was dancing, doing all sorts of maneuvers in the sky. She references a book that was put out by Michael Hesseman, and it had a foreword written by Whitley Strieber, The Fatima Secret. And this was published in 2008. So this is one of the most comprehensive looks at the accounts given by the girls and people in the crowd. But she says the main value of this book lies in its history of the apparitions that predated the White Lady's appearance. The first unusual sighting took place when they were praying while watching a herd of sheep. They looked up and above the treetops saw a boy about 14 or 15 years old who was whiter than snow. So the first thing they saw was a boy. They interpreted him as an angel.
That's not very divine feminine.
Yeah.
I keep on messing that up.
It's feminine.
Feminine.
They interpreted him as an angel of peace. When the children came back to the spot the next day, there was still magic in the air. They felt like there was like some kind of feeling in the air that was different. The children encountered the angelic boy at least 2 more times before May 13, when the White Lady showed herself for the first time. "Don't be afraid, I won't hurt you," she said. She told them she was from heaven and they should come and see her on the 13th day of every month. The physical description, though. What's the physical description of the White Lady if we remove the Catholic connotations?
Well, it's almost identical to what was described by Bledsoe.
She was about 4 feet tall. She had dark eyes. Her head was hooded. When she opened her hands, a bright light shot out at the children. A similar encounter with a young woman of the same description happens in one of John Mack's abductees in his book, Abduction, Human Encounters with Aliens, which we'll get to in a moment.
Was that the Zimbabwean cases, or was that... Because I think Cynthia Hind, when she was reporting on UFOs in Africa, I've got to look into her book, because I think she described something as well of there being like... Because it stood out because like for these kids who, hadn't seen a white person, it was a really outstanding kind of thing to them. But it literally was like, I think, like a floating white being. I'll have to look it up.
I think I've got the report she's referencing later on. It's not the one from Zimbabwe. But, I mean, it goes without saying there's been a bunch of encounters over the years with a goddess type lady.
Yeah.
But it's interesting the size. It's like it's not a human size. That's not a human size.
No, it's
4
a
feet
grey
tall.
size.
Yeah, that is more akin to reports of extraterrestrials. Hesseman's compiled all these testimonies from the major event, which was October the 13th, 1917, where the White Lady had promised a miracle. And that's where all these people showed up. I've got a couple of photos here. These are the usual ones that have been going around for years.
Isn't it remarkable, though? It really is.
70,000 people show up, and it's absolute torrential rain. Like, people are just getting hammered, but they're all out there. And as soon as the activity starts, the rain just suddenly stops. 70,000 eyewitnesses describe all this different phenomena, ranging from the sun rotating and changing colors to rotating like a huge wheel of fire. Some people noted that people were able to look at the sun without being blinded. The sun suddenly started dancing and looked as if it was tearing itself away from the heavens.
Do you know the problem with all these reports, though? It's like even today when you have eyewitnesses to just an event, not even a paranormal or, ufological event, it's just people witnessing things. People, especially in crowds, like it really is that whole madness of crowds thing. People say things that didn't really happen, but they get so caught up in it. So what's being described here, like I think it's being blown way out of proportion. Like I believe that those children did have experiences with some sort of visions, But this stuff which is being described, it sounds like it's more the madness of the crowd than what events really took place.
Yeah, I understand the psychology of the mob, but at the same time, if there was nothing happening, would you even get any reports at all? I mean, if there was nothing happening and it was all the psychology of the mob, why would all the reports be the same? Why would they be all similar? And there's some other aspects to keep in mind, which I'll mention in a moment. But you're right, there's a little bit of like obviously there's some psychology going on, especially because only the children saw the white lady.
Correct.
In that experience. Others reported that their faces were transformed by wonder, but the people in the crowd couldn't see this. Well, they say now the Virgin Mary, but this white lady. What was really interesting, she found this report from an anti-Catholic newspaper of the time called like the Seculo, like some secular magazine. And there were two atheists who were in this crowd, and they went there to debunk it. And one of them was Avelino Almeida. He was the editor-in-chief of that magazine. The other was a Dr. Jose Almeida Garrett, a professor of one of the local universities. So what they went along thinking, oh, this is outrageous, all these idiots. And they both saw all this crazy stuff going on in the sky. Both men denied the religious aspect of the phenomenon, but they saw all these unusual events. Almeida wrote that the sun trembled, made strange, abrupt movements outside of all cosmic laws. He said he saw the sun dance. Dr. Garrett observed that there were also changes of color in the atmosphere. Looking at the sun, he said everything was darkening. He said he looked into the horizon because he was trying to see beyond the phenomena that was going on in the sky. He said everything looked like amethyst, like everything had changed color.
You know what it's beginning to sound like, though? It sounds like it's some type of electromagnetic event.
Yeah, it sounds like there's some kind of field that's being, thrust over the entire audience of the people.
What does electromagnetic events do? Like it disrupts people's temporal lobes, which induces hallucinations.
Yeah, he said everything both near and far shifted again. It took on the color of old yellow damask, whatever that is. It just looked yellow, I guess. But then she references a podcast episode from Strieber's Dreamland.
With the little blue guys banging the white lady?
No, not that episode. But he had an episode in 2024, and the guest he had on was, what's his name? Correa. He's basically an expert on this particular event. And Correa had a bunch of sources, even further beyond the reports, the main investigators of the past. He said the children never referred to the apparition as the Virgin Mary. They didn't even refer to her as a lady. They just said she was female shaped. That's it.
And what? So from a religious, like people that are religious just kind of hijacked it and said because she had a veil around her head that it was a Virgin Mary?
No, apparently this came from one of the girls' father, who they told their father that it came from heaven, the entity came from heaven.
Oh, so that's why immediately, yeah.
So he said, oh, it's the Virgin Mary. And that's how it kind of stuck. Apparently one of the girls years later saw the artistic impression of the Lady of Fatima, which was like what you see on the screen there, the very
Well, it's very classical
Catholic imagery. And they rejected it. They said that's not what we saw at all. That looks nothing like what we saw. Now, Correa also makes this interesting point. Two separate groups of psychics, one in Lisbon and one in Porto, earlier, before this massive encounter, like in early May, they had received psychic messages that something was going to happen on May the 13th, 1917. And there's actually a paper trail for this, where these psychic groups, these psychic societies, released local newspapers and pamphlets and magazines about this upcoming event. So
they predicted.
Yeah, they predicted it. We've long spoken about this connection with the girls. Is it some direct connection with these three girls? But apparently not, because these psychics knew what was going to happen. Correa also gives additional descriptions for the phenomena through testimonies found nowhere else. These include balls of fire, flying hats, disc-shaped objects, silvery discs with flashing lights coming from behind the clouds, strange buzzing sounds. So Correa thinks the reason people believe they saw the sun dancing in the sky was because the flying orbs exuded heat that dried their clothes because they had been soaked by the rain.
And the rain had ceased.
There was another eyewitness that said there was like this discoloration, like you could see these clear shadows where the clothing had been rapidly dried. And so it was suggested that it was some kind of infrared that was like cooking the clothes, drying them out really fast.
Well, but what's that consistent with? That's with 1950s, 1960s, even into the 70s UFO reports of people being burned by the beams from UFOs.
A few of the cars that were parked nearby, the paint had started to melt, and I think there were 1 or 2 cases of gasoline tanks exploding during this event.
So these are elements that I'm not familiar with this particular case, but it's interesting because if you put it into today's context, right? Like, let's forget that everyone has phones, but if you had an event like that occur today, what would people say it is?
It's aliens. Yeah, and that's funny because on that podcast, Correa and Whitley Strieber, they're joking about all these people saying it's some kind of Catholic vision and some kind of spiritual vision of the Virgin Mary. Because to them, it's obvious that it's a UFO event, it's some kind of alien event, and the people, the Catholic believers are just kind of shaped by their preconceived notions. Now, I think Joanna points out perfectly that it never occurs to Strieber and Correa that they're also controlled by their notions, that they're also seeing what their notions dictate, which is that it's some kind of alien encounter, it's some kind of UFO event.
Then what is it?
Well, I thought the weirdest thing that came out of this from this researcher Correa was that there were people that gave testimony who were in that crowd watching everyone freak out, who were like, I didn't see anything.
Yeah.
Like literally nothing happened.
So that's why I'm wondering if this is an electromagnetic event. Maybe there had been some type of issue in the ionosphere that's localized to that region. Maybe there's, I don't know if it could be even tracked back then, but so maybe some solar activity which is influencing that particular region, which is, disrupting the quartz in the soil. I don't know. Like that's like really kind of
like
stretching.
It's purely some kind of phenomenological.
It's a natural but electrical induction of a frequency which is causing some people who are sensitive to it to hallucinate.
I mean, if that was the case, why would the psychics know about it beforehand?
That's a good question. I don't have an answer for. The only thing that could be, I was actually thinking before, one thing, it is real, right? It is being shown to certain people, but it's not anything that we could possibly imagine. It's basically like low-level entities. And I know it's like that's where we always go, but it's like, what do? They coordinate, right? So they get into a bunch of psychic groups, set the whole scene up, and then go and do this. And then so in the future, you ask that exact question. Oh, well, how did the psychics know about it? It's like because the whole thing was orchestrated as some type of paranormal show.
And we won't go into the messages that were left for the girls because that all implies, I think that implies obviously some kind of spiritual event because they were messages about human morality and conduct. But the big question for Joanna is, are these sightings of a technological or spiritual nature? Because if you go on the side of, well, it's some kind of maybe extraterrestrial entities, and it certainly does match in some aspects with people describing discs and rotating orbs and 4-foot-tall beings appearing. Is it technological that in the sense that it comes from some alien technology, or is it purely spiritual in nature?
But why wouldn't she, and maybe that's just the scope of her book, but I am surprised that she didn't also put that third category in of it being like a psychological event or being, an induced psychological event. Like, I'm just surprised that we can only choose between these two of, well, was it technological or was it spiritual?
Well, I mean, if it's an induced psychological event, is that not technology?
No, naturally.
Well, I find that hard to buy from a rational sense because if it was some, say, effect of the earth, why would people hallucinate the same thing? Why would people all see the same thing?
Because they didn't see the same thing.
It's generally the same. Like people are describing the sun, discs moving.
But what they're seeing
one's seeing dinosaurs flying around.
No, but what they're seeing is like very low. Like it's just enough, right? There's also levels of hallucinations that human beings have, right? So when people have low-level hallucinations, what people really see, it's not full-on AI-generated images. Like that's all very sloppy, but like it's like an exotic kind of thing. It's like what people have when they have very low-level things is lights, flashes, orbs, balls, like all that kind of stuff. Like that all kind of hovers around. So if it was something that was very low level, that's why people would be seeing things that are kind of the same, but
and they're just seeing it in their minds.
Correct.
And so that would be your scenario. So just to counter that, the thing that kind of counters that idea is that there's photographs taken of the phenomenon. And it's something I didn't include in my notes, but it is something that she mentions. Yeah, there's a report from a study from 2022. It's fairly recent, and it uses modern photographic analysis to look at the old photos from the Fatima phenomenon. And the conclusion of the researchers was that it cannot have been faked, and it is absolutely a real observable. Sorry.
You're as bad as I am today.
It's from the tea, man. I'm all happy from this tea.
I'm not drinking tea before I record anymore.
The real observable phenomenon.
Are you sure? Because looking at some of these images, it's just like, oh. Was it AI that said that it's absolutely real? Because it's like some of these images look a little bit doctored, like a little bit mocked up, almost like that.
I don't know what you're looking at, because she didn't include any images in the book.
Just what I've looked online, and I've looked for a legend. So I don't know if this is one she's referring to. I will link to this one in the show notes, but basically it's just like a crowd with a circle in the sky.
Yeah, I mean, most of the images I've seen from a quick search are just shots of the crowd.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what you're looking at, unless it's I can't see any on the screen here. There's some fake Pinterest image. I don't know. I don't know if that's real. Anyway, I mean, her point is, again, that there's this push and pull between the two possibilities. She then expands from there and looks at Diana Pasulka's work. She talks about DMT experiences. And this is where we get into some more of her personal encounters.
I found a real one. I will send it to you because you need to put it on the screen. It's
this is a really good one.
It's stunning. Like, I can see why now that they would think that it's like, I can see why the computer would say, yeah, it's absolutely real.
I can tell you're being facetious. Yeah, well, I mean, you can't say that there's no photos that don't show strange phenomena. Dude, it's 1917.
Yeah,
what are you expecting?
Exactly.
There's no Pentax 17 in 1917, unfortunately,
Yeah.
which would be awesome if there was a Pentax 17.
It's an artifact which is consistent with photography for the time. Like, to be like, I'm sorry, like you can't get a computer program to go, oh, well, though this image, yeah, of course the image is real, but it's like a dot.
Okay, we'll defer to your wisdom on this. I think you've cracked the case.
I'm definitely there.
And that's a wrap. Can I go home and go to sleep
You go
now?
home. Yeah, let's just jump into the plus extensions. No, I'm not trying to just shoot it all down. My point is that it's like these sorts of events, it really have the I guess the possibility to be blown out of proportion, but through time as well. And as so much time has passed, it's like it's built upon itself and built upon itself. Like Roswell, right? All these new facets come in, all these new little stories. So it makes it difficult to tell what really happened, like what was really reported.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but look, I'm going to boil it down to this. If 70,000 people claim they see something anomalous in the sky, I'm going to err on the side of the fact that they perhaps saw something in the sky versus it being something in everyone's heads. I think it's more reasonable to say that they actually witnessed something. But I want to move on because I want to talk about her personal experiences. Because she's talking about DMT, she talks about Strassman's research, and she mentions that she had this encounter years ago where she was going through a difficult time. She just finished a PhD and had the usual realization of, I don't know if medieval studies is the best avenue to get a job in this economy. So one night she's lying in bed, she's thinking, what the hell am I going to do with my life? She says all of a sudden 2 figures of light appear towering above her. She said they were light yellow in color and looked like elongated beings with abstract features. They looked tall and stretched out, lanky bodies, long, thin arms and legs. And she has this not telepathic communication with them, but they started to play images to her, like videos and video reels in her mind. It was like a combination of hieroglyphics and mathematic symbols, she said.
You should get a government-paid job.
Yeah. Learn to code, bitch. Even then, I knew that they were attempting to say something, she said, in a language that was too complex for me. She said they downloaded the information into my head, assuming I would understand it, even though all I got from the message was, "This is important."
Does she describe any of these scenes?
No, because she didn't understand any of it. It was just like weird images and hieroglyphics and mathematical equations, which happens so often in these encounters. Have you noticed?
Yeah, I have noticed.
All the contactees download the secret equations to the universe. And they're like, "Duh."
But they download Slop. Like, it's funny
Yeah.
we're talking about AI because they literally download Slop.
Yeah, it's like GPT
Yeah.
beaming slop into your brain.
The abductee, you're totally right. The abductee often describes like these what sound to be very profound and insightful moments, but they just get slop that they don't know what to do anything
Yeah,
with.
I mean, very similar to a lot of the channeling material, right? Where it looks impressive on the surface, but actually there's no substance to it. More personal accounts, though. She talks about John Mack's Abduction book, which I'll link to in the show notes, one of the
Such
classics.
a great book.
But she says there's elements that she's had similar experience to some of the stories. She says a few years ago in Mount Martha in Victoria here in Australia, I woke up at night and checked the clock. It's 2:30 a.m. And she said, I had a sense that I had woken up in the middle of something.
Someone robbing a house?
No, she'd woken up.
Victoria.
It's like coming out of a dream and going, oh, I got to get back to whatever I was doing in that dream. It was that kind of urgent feeling. Like I just was in the middle of something. I got to go back and finish it. So she immediately falls back to sleep, but she's lucid when she goes back to sleep. And she said, I found myself in a medical examination room. It was this clear white room. She said, I couldn't see much. The edges of the room were blurred, but something felt off. She said the whole feeling was that something was trying to deceive her. She said, I didn't feel threatened or scared in any way, but I had a feeling that the people in the room, the doctors, were hiding their true identities as well as the true purpose of this examination. She said, I found myself half reclining on this strange seat, similar to a dentist's chair, she said. And at that very moment, I thought I was somehow being deceived. One of these doctors turned around to face me. He was charming and telepathically informed me, she said, that I was definitely not being deceived. His communication felt insincere though, she said. It was like...
Insincere?
Yeah, sorry. What did I say?
Insincere.
Did I? Dude, I'm so tired and just like...
Feminism. I got it right. I got it.
Yeah, he's lying. And to make it even more suspicious, the doctors all looked exactly the same. They're like weird clones of each other. Now, sensing her uneasiness, this strange doctor reassures her again, everything's normal. No need to worry. And she claims she detects some concern, like she's psychically picking up that he's a little bit worried, that she's picking up on the deception. She said, my mind then became even more lucid. She said it was like she was coming out of a state of being drugged. And another thought enters her mind. She suddenly thinks, hang on a second. They've fooled me because they can get into my head. They can read my mind. As soon as she's completed that thought, that weird clone doctor turns to her again and he has this freaked out look on his face and she can telepathically hear what he's saying to the other doctors. And he's saying, she knows, it's time to stop. She knows, time to stop, time to stop. She knows, she knows. And she wakes up. She comes out of it. She says, I felt pleased with myself that I'd, not let them deceive me for too long. But she looks back at the clock and it's still 2:30 a.m.
So was it a
She's
false
like-
awakening?
She's like, no, that's weird, because she felt like she was in that scenario for, 10, 15 minutes. But you know how dreams are.
Yeah.
She said, I thought, how is it possible I was still with the doctors that long? It's still 2:30. Only then did it strike her how strange the whole thing was. Because she came out of it with that feeling of, that wasn't a dream. That was realer than real. That wasn't a normal dream.
Yeah, where was I?
And something was just awry. There was something really amiss about the whole thing. Excuse me. So I think she told that story on a podcast, maybe fairly recently. And a friend of hers named Bryn heard the interview and immediately called her. And a friend, Bryn, says, I just heard your story. I can't believe it. I had almost exactly the same encounter. Bryn was, at the time, sharing a hotel room with a mother. and she said she was drifting off into sleep, and these alien beings placed her on this weird table. She said there were green rods on either side of her coming over this table. And
scanning her or something?
Well, she was told she had to grip the rods. She had to hold on to them. And the beings were telling her telepathically that you have to hold on to those rods, otherwise it's going to be bad. Like, you make sure you hold on to the rods. So she's there holding onto the rods, and she feels like she's fighting some amnesia. Like she's been drugged and she's got to come out of the state and remember why she's there, why she's in this room. And she does something she's never done before in these experiences. She tries to get her hand off the rods. Like, she tries to let go of these rods. And she's being all defiant. And there's this huge commotion in the room. Like, the beings are going, oh no, she knows. We've got to stop this. She's got to stop. She's letting go of the rods.
They're
she
not
knows,
very good at their job if, like, all these people seem to be waking up to them.
Yeah, well, she starts to return to consciousness in the hotel room. She starts to, like, cross over to the hotel room. She described it as if she were dripping down to the hotel room, but then it's like they were trying to bring her back and she'd come back to this laboratory. So she was switching back and forth between these two realities. She knew this feeling had to do with her refusing to hold on to the green glowing rods. The beings soon realized that this time they had been unsuccessful with her, and thus they aborted the mission. When she opened her eyes, she saw her mother was in the exact same position on her bed, still awake, unaware of anything that had happened. So it's not like her mother was asleep in the bed in the hotel room. Her mother was just awake, watching TV or something. Meanwhile, she goes through this crazy encounter that takes basically zero time at all. It's like in a dimension where time doesn't flow or something. And again, it's the idea of these liminal spaces that the abductee or the person with the encounter, the experiencer, the shaman is going to this space in between, some other pocket dimension of sorts.
This must have been is it Joanna? Must have been very confronting for Joanna because she's had this experience and then her close friend has had an almost identical or very similar experience. Like, that just can't be that, like, I was going to this is generated by people's minds, but that's more than a coincidence.
Well, she says, look, I can't say for sure that this is anything more than lucid dreams, like similar lucid dreams. She says, I really don't know, but what I'm certain of is that they happened somewhere where these two possibilities can exist concurrently.
But let's also not forget that she has a childhood history of encounters with UFOs.
Exactly. Whatever the alien worlds are, she says, it appears that we can access them in states of consciousness different from our usual fields of perception, this liminal space between two parallel realities, perhaps. So she concludes that these anomalous experiences, they're not actually rare. Like, they're a major part of our lives. We all have anomalous experiences. I mean, most of us, not all of us perhaps, most of us have these anomalous experiences in our lives at least once. The question she asks is, why do we keep them secret? Why, she says, did I keep my experiences secret?
Fear of ridicule. It's so bizarre and so foreign, but also it's got that factor that it's most likely a dream. And people don't, like, dreams really aren't that interesting to other people. It's like a social faux pas that you just don't describe your dreams to other people.
Well, it's almost like she hints that there's some kind of external force acting on the human psyche to, I guess, restrict us in really discussing these things, breaking through the taboo.
Do you think that's true, though?
I'm not sure. But she says on almost every occasion, it seems that I either knew I was not supposed to talk about my experiences or I was told not to talk about them. But by whom? ? She doesn't know. On the rare occasions when I did share this experience with people close to me, she says it was strange because they quickly forgot about it. It's like she would tell a close friend, they'll be like, wow, that's amazing. And then never, like, it would just never mention again. If you bring it up again, they're like, what? It's almost, again, it's almost like
abductee kind of feel, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's some kind of, what's the word? Like a firewall protecting any kind of inquiry into this topic.
Well, we know from abductees who have, like, this could be abductee style stuff, but it's being perceived through the lens of a dream. But maybe that's just their modus operandi this time. But we know from abductees that they attempt to wipe their memories But these beings try to wipe abductees' memories, and for the most time, they do get it. But this is why a lot of abductees come forward, because it just doesn't work on them.
And as you're going through the book with her and she's doing all this research, more and more of her personal experiences come to the surface. Like one happened when she was 19 years old. She said, I was sitting in my room back in Poland going through an intense experience of fear, she says, when I saw a presence that communicated with me telepathically. She said this presence was pure white light of no particular shape. It was vaguely egg-shaped, she said, but with fringes of light coming out of the sides. She said it looked like a large portal or some kind of weird vertical orb. She said the presence calmly communicated to me that there was nothing to be afraid of. This telepathic transmission carried such peaceful energy with it, I began to relax my intense fear and started to feel profound peace. I left my room to tell my mother what had happened, and she just said, oh, that's nice, honey, that you're peaceful, as if nothing had actually happened. But it's funny that earlier she says, oh, I never saw the UFO, I never saw any orbs, I never saw anything like that my friend was talking about. But obviously she did. So
because like so many people that have had these interactions, there's an element of denial that comes in. And that's fair enough because it's terrifying. Like people don't know how to deal. No one, and that's not a slight on anyone either. It's like it's so far out of the realm of what is considered to be normal reality that how do you comprehend something like that? How do you deal with this? Like, let alone admit it to yourself that has occurred. So of course, even when you're going to the point of writing a book saying these are the experiences, you probably are still going to have that denial built in, going, "Oh no, I haven't experienced anything. Like nothing that fascinating."
Mm. Well, she has another personal account, which I think is like that previous one. You can still argue, "Oh, this is some kind of alien technology or something," or a pure spiritual experience. But I think the next one's obviously more spiritual. She was in Toronto with her first husband, and she was a few weeks pregnant at the time. She said, I had a lucid dream in which I saw my grandmother, and her grandmother had been dead for 15 years. And she says she's in this like white matrix loading room. Actually, it was quite dark, she said, but there was this spotlight that was pointing down to this single spot. And it's just her grandmother sitting in a single chair, like in the middle of this room, just like patiently waiting. And in this experience, this very lucid dream, she goes up to her grandmother and she's like, Grandma, what are you doing here? And her grandmother turns to her and says, oh, I'm waiting for your baby. When she wakes up, she realizes she's had a miscarriage.
Oh.
Crazy.
Oh, that's awful.
So that's definitely, like I said, that's in the spiritual basket.
Well, that's phantasms of the living kind of stuff, like and truly awful.
And then she talks about abductions, the feminine and the erotic. She talks about Ed's story. And obviously there's this connection between, the sexual or the taking of genetic material involved with alien abductions.
Yes.
It's funny how researchers lump this in with something that's erotic, even though there are these encounters that have an erotic nature to them in that.
But there's nothing sexual. I don't think there's anything sexual about it.
Well, sometimes there is. Like sometimes there's seduction and there's some kind of feeling that's induced that implies, seduction or
but that's a tool.
Some eroticism. But you're absolutely right. It's like it's not eroticism for eroticism's sense. It's a tool. It's a method to gain something from the abductee.
Yeah.
It's just used to extract what they need to get. It's not like a real core element of the phenomenon. But she writes about it from one of Mac's cases. His name's Ed. He was a technician in his early 40s. And he had an intense fear of doctors and hospitals. Like her, she says she has that as well. He also remembered some elements of his alien encounters before hypnosis, and he was seeking clarification from Mac. So the initial regression took him to his early teens, and he wanted to uncover more of this experience. And he tells this story. It was Maine in July of 1961, and he was out camping in his car by the ocean with a buddy of his. And they were young guys, teenagers, and before they went to sleep that night, they were discussing how horny they were. They were discussing how like pent up they were because they couldn't get any girls. And they were hoping to meet some girls on the beach the next day. You know what it's like when you're a young man. So they start talking about this and then getting ready to go to sleep. Suddenly, Ed sees two figures outside the car that are human-like, but not exactly human. They have large dark eyes And she says, as I did in my doctor's dream, Ed sensed that they were camouflaging who they really were.
It's just a grey and a pointy bra and a bad wig.
It's a grey and a bikini.
No, like they heard them talking about it. They're like, oh, that's how we can get some material.
He's got tan lines, bikini tan lines.
There's a cigarette in one hand, drink in the other.
He felt a strange sensation at the bottom of his skull and his body started to float out of the car. Now, despite knowing that he's being taken against his will, he's chilled. He's totally relaxed. And they float him into this dome-shaped pod. The inside of the dome looked like an amphitheater, and there's at least a half dozen beings in there. One of them is a doctor who's in charge of all the others he calls drones. A very Grey-esque encounter.
Yes.
Now, all the beings were gentle but somewhat deceptive. He knew there was something off about the whole thing. But in walks this female figure, the White Lady. She's slim, triangular-shaped face, largish forehead, long, straight, thin, silvery blonde hair, immense, sensual dark eyes, small lips and nose. And he finds her incredibly attractive. She's unusual, but she's attractive. And she starts blasting him with Pornhub in his head, sending all sorts of sexual fantasies into his mind. And he starts to resist. He's obviously distrusting what's going on. She softly, telepathically tells him, don't fight the process. Let it happen. Let it happen. He had the strange sense that this woman's familiar to him. He's somehow connected to her. It's connected to some other memories he has. Anyway, eventually Ed and this tiny blonde female have intercourse. He loves it. He has a great time. But during the intercourse, he somehow understands that she's using the intercourse to send information into his mind, to implant something. There's an exchange going on. He sensed that for her, the intercourse was a means of transferring information without his resistance. But she also tells him they need his sperm. They literally need his sperm to create special babies that would provide help to our planet and humanity alike.
We know that old trope.
Liars. She also tells him that humanity was on a path of destruction and to change our ways, we need to listen to the earth.
No.
If we don't do this, the earth will shake us off. The female figure also showed him how we had progressed from the playful creativity of nature to an evil, destructive species that had done much damage and are now hosts to malignant, distorted spirits, which the female entity said her and her associates, so these greys,
that are called drones,
are trying to ward off. They're trying to save us from ourselves, trying to save the earth from the evil humans. The goal was to bring both their race and humans back to a healthy symbiosis. Aren't they wonderful?
No, thanks.
So, yeah, she goes through the similarities with her story. She says, yeah, it could be some adolescent's crazy sex dream, but still the floating, the strange, pleasant feeling, the deception, the amphitheater with the doctors, they're hiding their true identities. They all look the same. And the erotic aspect of it as well, the use of sexual ecstasy by the blonde alien, they're transforming information. And this is where she goes into her research into the goddess. And this is something beyond the scope of this segment, but I do recommend you check out the book because she really goes into how these modern encounters that have this aspect to them, that have some encounter with this mystical, female, feminine, powerful entity, how it mirrors the goddess cults of the past and certain initiations into old practices. It's very much a similar thing.
Well, I mean, she's obviously very astute because she's right. There is this, worship of the feminine that, is probably consistent with these stories. But I guess, I'm going to have to go and look through the book. But is she saying that this is good or is it bad?
So when she gets into the AI stuff, she does mention Rudolf Steiner because Steiner in his lectures in the 19th century spoke about the coming of Ahriman.
Yes.
And Ahriman was this aspect that was going to start influencing humanity away from the divine and the spiritual nature of things towards a purely material way of living and thinking.
And you could argue that he was right.
And well, she argues, I think, quite succinctly that the forefront of AI, the huge push for artificial intelligence, is really the culmination of this Ahrimanic thinking. What does she refer it to? She talks about essentially like economic determinism. How in modern society we always put economics and the economy doing well, making money as the greater good.
Yes.
Like that seems to be the greater good. We put that above the people, really. I mean, look at mass immigration as an example. The argument for mass immigration is always an economic one when you come down to it. It's like we need to boost GDP. We've got to have our immigrants coming in. No one cares about people being replaced, cultures being eradicated, things being destroyed from it. No one cares about that. I mean, people care about it, but the forces in power argue for this economic determinism.
Well, but they're almost rapidly self-destructive. It's quite strange to see what's happening around the globe at the moment about how cultures and societies are being so rapidly changed and also against what the populace really wants.
Yeah, and so when it gets to the point where human beings have been saturated by that material thinking, where we've completely divorced from the divine, and you could argue we're certainly at that point today, that's when Ahriman will literally incarnate into the human world.
Right.
And be some kind of world leader, be some kind of revolutionary figure that people will follow. So there's like comparisons to the Antichrist and the like. But yeah, she's arguing that AI is that Ahrimanic force, and it's signaling that Ahriman's incarnation may be imminent. And so from there, she starts to talk about, well, what's the answer? And the answer that Steiner always talked about in terms of combating an Ahrimanic force or Ahriman's plans was spiritual development. And cultivating spiritual development was the number one way to combat this external cosmic force coming through and changing humanity's thinking, corrupting humankind.
But is that meaning that people commit to the white lady?
Well, yeah, the third part of her book is where she's arguing this lost devotion to the goddess is the answer to that. These old feminine cults, she talks about Gnosticism, she talks about the usual suspects, right? This is the antidote to the Ahrimanic forces. So obviously we're in disagreement there.
It's almost like Gnosticism. It's like libertarianism. It all sounds like it's a great idea until you put it into practice and you're like, oh my God, this is stuffing up everything. That's really what it's like.
Yeah, because it removes the patriarchy and it removes...
Well, I'm not even talking about removing the patriarchy.
Orthodoxy.
It's just like it breaks down systems that, like
patriarchy.
There's things that haven't worked and things that obviously need to be adjusted and changed. But the reality is these systems have built up over eons and eons and eons. And it's kind of a lot of it's been trial and error.
Well, one of the things I would argue with her perspective is that one of the things she says is that we desperately need this feminine power back in the world. And the feminine power really needs to take control for the world to combat these cosmic forces. But to that, I would say that's already taken place.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The corruption is from the inversion of yin and yang. It's the inversion of the old orthodox order. Patriarchy is a good example. Men are no longer in charge. Men have become weak, and women do run things. Women have power in society over men, and women tell men what to do. And women, essentially, this feminine power that she's saying needs to come back is not only already in place, but is totally out of control.
I'm not so sure that it's that far. I know what you're saying. I think, though, that just going, it needs to be like this. No, what it really needs to be, it needs to be the right people. It shouldn't be determined on what your gender is. It shouldn't be determined on what your, attributes are. It should be, are you fighting back against an evil force? Are you a good person with righteous values and a good moral compass? If yes, that's what it should be. You can't be like, we just have to do DEI and just bring in all female leaders and that's going to solve the problem. No, it's not. It's just absolute insanity.
But
you can't just say bring in all men and men will solve it either. That's not going to answer the question. It needs to be, because there's a lot of bad men out there.
Yes, but what I'm saying is for that order to be restored, men do need to lead. Men do need to be in charge, and it can't be women in charge. If you want to return
I disagree.
If you want to return to a traditional orthodoxy and yin and yang are in balance, then absolutely men need to be in charge. Women can't be in charge because the genders are very different.
Yeah, I know,
And
but
that
women
force of the goddess is women in charge.
Nah. I mean, women are more than capable. Some women, this is the thing. This is what the problem. It's like we're focusing on an attribute. Like there's some women that are highly capable and can lead and can do really great things. So I don't think it's like, well, we shouldn't just allow this because it's women. It's like, no, it comes down to the individual. It's meritocracy. Are you capable of leading? Are you capable of having a good moral compass and understanding of what's right for people? Like that, I think, is more important.
Yeah, I think there's exceptions to the rule, and I'm not saying that people need to be banned because of gender, but if what we're saying is that there does need to be a return to fight these forces, because the cosmic forces in power at the moment are the forces that are against meritocracy. They're the forces that say that you have to have an equal amount of women in charge, or women need to be in charge because historically it's been men.
Which is what she's saying,
those
you're suggesting.
Forces, well, here's the thing. Those forces clearly are in power and in effect in our world. But she's almost saying that, oh no, it's still men are all in charge and we need the feminine power. It's like she's saying we need even more feminine power.
Right.
We need even more women in charge. We need the goddess to return. We need people to worship the divine feminine. Well, my argument is that has already happened and it's an absolute disaster because it's an inversion of nature. Because yin and yang is not just some construct. It's an actual foundation of reality. And men and women are different. Men have this yang, where our nature is different. Men need to lead.
Not the men I've been seeing. Like, have you seen, like, this is the problem. Look at the men we have even in Australian Parliament, right?
Exactly.
They are weak and miserable and pathetic and traitors. And I'm like, don't get me started.
Exactly. I agree with you. And so you wouldn't say to those men that they need more divine feminine, would you?
Well, then I look at someone like Jacinta Price, for example. I mean, I'm not going to go into Australian politics, but I think she's a very strong person. I think she's very strong, but she's a female.
True. I mean, but that's also in context because there's no strong men. It's like, of course she looks strong because what are we comparing her to? The weak men that we have?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I just think it's very reductive to bring it down to, the way that we do this is bring in more women. Like, the way that we do this is we bring in more of an attribute. Like, that's not the way to do it. The way that we do it is bring in people that like have the right merits to be able to deal with it.
It's not even like, I'm not even talking about politics. It's not about politics at all.
No, but I even mean spiritually.
That's what I'm talking about though. It's like, if there's an inversion of a natural universal order, that means there is a spiritual corruption. So if the spiritual corruption is corrected, these things will naturally, the natural order will return. And so what she's arguing for, I think, is more distortion, not a return to an orthodoxy. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, I do see what you're saying. The problem I have with that is that, like, with what she's describing, though. So and obviously we're only like describing a small part of her book. You have to read the whole book to see what her argument is. But my inference from, what you've described is she set up these scenes of like bad things happening to people when they interact with the white lady. Right, which is what we've established from previous episodes, that I'm sorry, but it's like people burnt themselves alive or allowed themselves to be burnt alive after they committed to this white lady, right? So for me, like the setup is, it's not good to interact with it, and yet there's an argument that we need more of that. Is that what's being said? Am I getting it right?
Yeah. We need more gnosis. We need more Rosicrucianism. We need more divine feminine cults.
No, we don't.
We need to worship the goddess. And then you've just got to analyze what that actually means. Like, what is the nature of the goddess? I mean, it's yin.
So I'm sorry, but traditionally, yin is chaotic.
Yin is chaos.
It's chaos.
Yang is order.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to be so binary about it, but
you're a sexist pig, but it's fine. No, I'm just joking.
But also, that's like the nature of reality. It's like it's a binary universe. You've got good and evil. You've got yin and yang. You've got men and women.
Yeah, I just don't.
Evil forces and good forces.
Yeah, I think that's what ultimately that's what it really comes. My argument is it shouldn't be about an attribute. And I know, yes, you're talking spiritually that it's like yin and yang, and it's like, and I get that, right? But the reality is what the ultimate force in the universe is, regardless of any other spiritual forces. And obviously, there's more than one, but the ultimate force is good versus evil. Are you good or are you evil? And it's constantly in this back and forth, and that's what basically the universe is. Like, it's always going to happen. It's always going to continue happening because these are these two warring forces. But possibly what she's describing here, you are going to, if you bring in people that are, because you're not vetting them through, are they good or are they evil? You're vetting them through, what's your spiritual attribute?
Yeah.
It's a problem.
Well, I think it's very good research regardless.
Oh, of course. I'm not having a go at it. I think it's interesting.
Alien Goddess by Dr. Joanna Kujawa. Polish names, dude. They got to just fix that country. Like, the country's great, but just fix the names. But she's written an earlier one called The Other Goddess, Mary Magdalene and the Goddesses of Eros and Secret Knowledge. She also claims, and I think she talks about it in this book, that she's been initiated into a tantric cult. So that would be a good story, maybe for a plus extension, though. Oh my, indeed.
Oh my.
Oh my.
Mm.
And Sai Bubba's back as well. Did you see that in the news?
Yeah, I was going to talk about the plus. Yeah, but that's fine.
Bubba's back. We'll talk about in the plus extension. He has reincarnated. He's like fondling Kinder Surprises now.
In
his previous life, he just fondled Kinders.
Balls, yeah.
Now he's fondling Kinder Surprise.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that after the break. More coming up. What's coming up in the plus extension, Aaron?
The cosmic drones, the interdimensional beings, and the history of ufological encounters.
Awesome stuff. Head to mysteriousuniverse.org/plus. Sign up today. Help support your favorite show. Of course, if you sign up before the end of the year, you'll get access to all the extra Mysterious Universe content. You get an exclusive show on Tuesday, and of course, the big extensions we do every single Friday. And you'll get access to our new show coming in 2026, Inescapable. Existing Plus members, if you sign up before the end of the year, you'll get access to both shows. You'll get your MU membership and you'll get an Inescapable membership as well.
But that shuts off, pardon me, that shuts off 31st of December. See, I was like caught in my throat as I'm doing that. Oh, we need to get out of here. 31st of December, that's shut off. Yeah, all chappy in the break.
You got to sign up.
Yep, just
before the end of the year.
Just get before the end of the year.
Who knows what 2026 is going to be like?
Who
the
cares?
new guys have already recorded a show, I hear.
I know, yeah.
I think they're putting one in the bank.
That's smart. We've never done that. We've never done that. But good on them.
Everyone always tells us, just have a pre-recorded show that you can save. And when you're sick, like today, you can just play that show. But what a stupid idea.
Yeah, why would you do that?
Why would you do that?
I'd rather just whinge and bitch all the way through a show.
That's a wrap for this show. Thanks for being on Plus. Sign up today, mysteriousuniverse.org/plus. Thanks for listening. If you're on Plus, stick around for the great stuff after the break. For everyone else, we'll catch you next week.